Hello, friends. On today's episode, I speak with Joshua Slack, who is a actor, writer, photographer, aspiring director, and a big fan of Avatar: The Last Airbender. On this episode, we dive in deep into the themes and character developments of the show and express what the show means to us growing up and how it affected us. Hey, Joshua, welcome to the podcast.
Hey Matt, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. Just this is my first time doing this, so it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's cool. It's everyone and their grandma is doing one now. So during this whole
Wow.
pandemic, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I bet.
Um yeah, so with Avatar: The Last Airbender having been recently re-released on Netflix, have you binged it recently?
Of course I have. I've actually just got to book two. I think it's Zuko Alone is the episode I just watched
Ooh,
last night, which was one of my favorite episodes.
yes.
Yeah, such a timeless series, honestly.
Absolutely. It's a classic and it's
Yeah.
absolutely it's absolute one of my favorites, if not my absolute favorite show
Hmm.
of all time. And you know, it's interesting, and I ask other people if they've seen it, and they say, you know, I'm not really into anime, but
Hmm.
I never saw the show as anime. Would you even consider it
Yeah.
anime?
It's it's a toss up for me because I do consider it very heavily anime inspired and I could see it being classified as such, but its storytelling is so different.
Hmm.
Like it seems that it's more like as far as storytelling like similar to like Lord of the Rings or like Star Wars or something like within like the more western traditional like
A grand,
story structure.
yeah, like
Yeah.
a grand journey.
Yeah,
Hmm.
exactly. And a lot of anime is very is more episodic
I see.
and very like a lot more long running. And I think Avatar's like 3 season structure kind of contains it as far as what anime usually like kind of goes for. And if it is like more of like a structured story, it like there it's like it's just anime is more extreme, I think, than Avatar is a lot more tame than anime can be,
Really?
if that makes any sense. Yeah.
I tend to tell people it's an Americanized anime, if that would
Yeah.
make sense. Yeah, it's more of a,
Hmm.
like you said, toned down and more story driven and character driven.
Hmm.
And that's one of my favorite things about this show are the characters and just the arcs that they go through.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
who's your favorite overall character in the show?
It changes actually. Right now with binging the series, I have to say Katara is becoming my favorite,
Mm,
which was something I wasn't really expecting. Zuko was always my favorite growing up. Like he was like the bad boy, like fire bender, like had a great character arc.
yes,
Um, Such a great redemption arc.
yes, absolutely.
Yeah, but just seeing Katara, looking at through the lens of her being somebody that was always told that she shouldn't like it's like that she should hold back, and I guess like in as far as like the topics when it comes down to gender and like gender roles within like the water tribe, like there's a whole issue of her
Mm.
even being a water bender,
And being a
like you know.
woman, yeah,
Yeah, and being a woman. And I think being mature enough to really see that kind of um, lens is really fascinating for me this time around watching the series. So Katara is becoming my favorite, seeing her overcome those obstacles that society places in front of her.
absolutely. And how
Yeah.
early, right? And how
Yeah.
absolutely, just like she was such a strong female lead for
Hmm.
that time, even.
Yeah.
You know, and seeing that now, it's even more just like of a wow factor seeing how strong she was then.
Yeah, exactly. I will definitely say I remember watching the first episode as it premiered on Nickelodeon back when I was like around 9 years old. And
Wow.
I remember Katara yelling at Sokka, like saying that he was sexist and all this thing. And that was the first time I ever heard that word used. And I immediately understood what it meant just because of the way that the dialogue and the story was going. And I thought and I think that goes to show just how like even as a kid series, there was things that you really learned from it that
Absolutely.
like just stick with you throughout the time. It was such a well crafted. well crafted show.
Absolutely. And I tell people now, even though it's classified as a children's show,
Hmm.
anybody can see it.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful show with amazing themes and, lessons to be learned. And
Hmm.
my, one of my favorite characters is, Uncle,
Oh
Uncle
yeah,
Iroh,
Uncle Iroh, so
Yeah.
good.
And, even just the relationship between him and Zuko,
Hmm.
I think is a really beautiful story just because, he lost his own son and Zuko replaced, that position and,
Yeah,
yeah, just an overall really, really beautiful story. And yeah, you did mention Zuko's overall story arc. And
yeah.
in the beginning, he, absolutely wanted his honor back. He wanted to capture
Hmm.
him and bring him back. And by the end, he complete
Become friends.
180, yeah,
Yeah,
and became friends with him and helped him along his journey.
yeah.
Um, it's so we know this now as we are going to school for screenwriting and for filmmaking in general that you know you have to have the entire series lined up
Hmm.
as you're even pitching it, right?
Yeah.
And watching it now, that's so obvious that it's so amazing that every single episode is so well structured.
Yeah.
There's the introduction, and then there's always an incredible choreographed fight scene in every
Hmm.
single episode.
Yeah.
And it's a really beautiful structure that they use to keep the attention, but also build this universe and this world.
Exactly. 100%. It's like I was saying pretty much earlier, as far as like being a kid and watching this, like there's like a whole it like seeing it on Twitter, the reactions that everybody talking about Avatar again, and really seeing like this so much love for it really
Yeah.
like just makes me realize we really, as our generation specifically,
Hmm.
really
It was
paid a
we
lot of attention to this
we
show.
were really impacted by it.
Yes, it was
Absolutely.
like greatly invested, greatly impacted, and I would say on a very similar scale to how our generation was impacted by Harry Potter, almost.
Hmm.
How we really were able to connect with that series, um, like just like kind of like growing up and like reading the books and watching the movies for Harry Potter. But Avatar, I think it had a different kind of accessibility,
Hmm.
especially with it being on Nickelodeon, which was a very popular kids channel back in the, I don't know if it's still as popular,
I don't think
but
so. Yeah,
yeah.
I think ours
Yeah,
was the golden era.
yeah, it definitely was. Yeah, haven't watched cable TV in quite a while, so this is good. But
Yeah, same.
yeah, just how impactful it was as far as like kids in the life lessons that we learned from like a young age to now, and just how it's kind of shaped like the way that we consume art in a sense, because there, like whenever you're talking about Avatar Last Airbender with anybody that's ever watched it or grew up with it, it's never really a surface level conversation
No,
about an appreciation for the series. Like there's always layers and depth to it,
absolutely.
no matter who you're talking to about it. And it's such a fascinating show that it's so fascinating that I was actually able to do that. Because even like talking about anime, and during that time I remember it was like Dragon Ball and Naruto were kind of the big ones at on TV in
Mhm.
America. And the conversations about them, they were like, and I'm a big fan of all of them. They were always like very surface level as far as like the action, as far as like, oh, this was an awesome moment, this was so cool and badass. But when you get to Avatar Last Airbender, there's like the emotional connection that the characters have with each other, that you have with the characters. It's I could talk about it forever, as you can
Yeah,
see, but it's
absolutely.
so much.
It's an incredible show, and very spiritual for a
Yes.
kids show.
Hmm. Very spiritual.
The Avatar is a basically a reincarnation of the spirit of Earth,
Hmm.
right? And their role is to bring balance to the world. And what was so cool, and it was so unique to this show, I don't think any other show has ever had this kind of premise of this
Hmm.
person who was able to bend elements.
Yeah.
And to the original creators, like you know
Yeah.
job well done.
Exactly.
It's an incredible universe. And
Yeah.
I mean, I only hope to be able to like, I mean, I was watching the episodes hoping to one day direct that episode or something, you know,
Yeah.
and just to know like how incredible that Netflix is coming out with a live adaptation
Yeah.
to it, and hopefully it is nothing like the film.
Oh my gosh. Every time I think of that film, I just am so upset.
Yeah, it did us dirty.
It's
It did us
very
really
dirty.
dirty. I think that was one of the only films that I ever walked out of.
Yeah. I
Well, actually, no. I think I gave it a shot, but it
Mhm.
was,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Walked out disappointed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I watched, I think it was the last film I paid to watch in 3D. I think it was definitely like one of the last ones I did because I was like in high school or
Uh-huh.
something. And their 3D movies are always expensive, but I was like, you know what? It wasn't worth it.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was really unfortunate what they did. Um, but what's so incredible is that the creators of this show, they brought together real life, like martial arts and different
Yeah.
kinds of philosophy, Eastern philosophies, and
Mm-hmm.
and chose them for each nation, like the
Yeah.
Earth Kingdom and all of these things. Um, so, what do you think is your favorite book? Like book one, two, or three?
Ah, they're, I
Like
love the,
like the style, like the
yeah.
clothes in season three,
Yeah.
100%, right?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, 100%. Like book 3 has like some of the, probably the best aesthetics that the series has, and it has the best production value I've noticed as far as like animation and character models. They feel very crisp, but I think book 2 will always be my favorite. I like each time I watch the series, book 2 always just stands out because I feel like it's the one that elevated. Like, of course, like when you have like a sequel or a part 2, like you always have to elevate and expand the world and do what you can. It does that perfectly, but also with introducing new characters, and like that's when you start to get into the richer story arcs, like with Zuko, everything dealing with Bossing Say,
Yeah.
Azula, like her introduction and just like the role that she plays as a foil for Zuko, as well as an obstacle for Team Avatar in general. And she's not even like the big bad of the series. Like, of course, we saw Firelord Ozai
Hmm.
like looming over the entire like series as like this threat, but Azula is such an immediate like threat for the all the entire cast of characters. While at the same time having her own level of like depth and like characteristics that make her unique.
Hmm.
Book 2 just has a lot to offer, and I think it's also it was like I remember in book at the end of book 1 with Admiral Zhao. I don't know if he was necessarily killed by Aang, but I do know that Jet was like the first like death in the series in book 2
Mm.
when he I remember that was a very like kind of like pushing the rating situation they did on Nickelodeon. But
Interesting.
yeah, it was definitely the first like Nickelodeon show that kind of dealt with a death like that. I should say.
Yeah.
So
It is. There's so many levels and
mhm.
layers to it, So, like for example, when they introduced Toph,
Yeah.
and
Oh yeah. Of course.
even before then, how King Boomy was like, you need a master that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't need to see, and it's like there's so many layers to that alone,
Yeah.
and to introduce a character that's blind and then uses
Mm-hmm.
these other senses to see it,
Yeah.
So I even saw this meme, and you gotta love how there are
Mm.
so many memes
So
lately about
many.
the show. That was comparing, these characters' weaknesses to their strengths.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's one thing for her totally, for
Yeah.
Toph, is that her weakness was her strength.
Yeah. That's 100%. And I think that also the show does a great job at representing disabled peoples. Really with Toph and her blindness. And I'm blanking the other boy's name that was a wheelchair. He was in a wheelchair in book
Oh,
1.
I remember, yeah.
Yeah.
But, there was one thing I did notice, and
Mm-hmm.
it was kind of exhausting the amount of times that I noticed it. Every
Yeah.
episode in book 2 has a blind joke.
Yeah.
I mean, I get the
Yeah.
structure to it, but it was like, dude, okay.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, we get it.
That
But
she's mm-hmm.
yeah, but yeah, it was brilliantly written.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of layers and planning that goes into it is just insane. And
Yeah.
sometimes I ask myself, like, how did they even think about that?
That is a good question. That is such a good question. I saw a tweet actually that made me really think about this, but it said something along the lines that this Avatar: Last Airbender is one of the only series to ever get the Chosen One storyline and do it well. And I'm not sure exactly how true that is, because I haven't seen every Chosen One storyline, but it does do the whole like responsibility of being like the savior or chosen one and the weight of that, and it really handles it well with Aang, especially with him being a child, of course.
Yes, which is such a unique situation.
It's such a unique one. Just like, and how as each episode progresses, like you can see and feel that weight bearing on him even more so, even with like the last episodes of him deciding if he's actually going to have to kill the Fire Lord at the very
absolutely
end. Like,
and how powerful is that alone?
Exactly.
Right?
Like there's a whole episode for like him debating with all of his past lives if he should do it, and some of them are saying, "Yeah, go ahead. I killed people." And like I think
like,
it was
do it.
She said, like, "Yeah, like there's no like you're gonna have to do what you need to do." So, like those,
just
it's
incredible, and the decision that he made too.
Yeah,
he just decided to take his bending away.
That honestly is a very powerful moment, and I think that it's a big controversial one that I'm starting to realize. The more I look it up, people are like, "Oh, he should have killed him," or "Oh, he should have done that."
Really?
Yeah, like I was actually surprised at the amount of people that were either mixed or turned off by his decision. But I think it makes for a good ending and a good,
absolutely,
like a great, and it's very in character, of course, with Aang being a monk and being very peaceful, and very symbolic as far as him just taking away that power from the Fire Lord. Like you can't really kill him, but like his bending was really all he had, like as a personality, as his motivation and everything. And once you take that away from him, he's really nothing. And I think that that's a very powerful tool of it was just a very great ending.
It was, at the ending, we really did feel satisfied, but we did want more.
Yeah.
I think we wanted to follow these characters, honestly, for the rest of their lives. Like, we just loved them.
Honestly, yeah. Like, very.
Yeah. And, I have seen The Legend of Korra, but it didn't stick as much as the show,
I agree. I own the entire series on like DVDs for both Legend of Korra and Avatar, and Korra, I think what hindered Korra a lot was just like the production going on with Nickelodeon and the team and things behind the scenes which were affecting the series. And it like it was originally supposed to be a limited series, and then it got greenlit for 2 seasons, and then in the middle of the 3rd season it got greenlit. It was like getting pushed around, like it wasn't on Nickelodeon anymore and went on to the website.
Yeah, I remember that, which is so strange.
It was so weird. Like, and like then like the viewership went down because of that. It just was like it was a weird handling of that series, and I think that affected the writing and like execution in a sense.
It really did, because the ending, which I'm in full support of, but it did feel like it came out of nowhere.
Yeah, it definitely felt that way. Like I tried to even go back during like book 3 and book 4 of Legend of Korra to really see if there were any hints about Korra and Asami like being together,
even just romantically involved in any way.
Yeah, and there's definitely some hints that there's like some sort of attraction there, but it wasn't really enough. Like they didn't give enough. I feel like they didn't give enough attention to it like they did with like all the other relationships of the series.
Well, I wonder if they were limited to, like they couldn't.
Yeah, that's a good question. They probably have no idea.
I have no idea. I could be wrong, but I think one of the creators is gay. I could be wrong because or an ally.
Yeah,
who knows? But
I could definitely see that.
Yeah, which is great. I did actually think for a moment when Toph was telling her parents, you are accepting me for who I am now. That could have been a little bit of a, nod to people coming out.
They definitely could have. There's actually a few things I've been picking up on. I can't remember. I believe the character's name is Smellerby, the one that's part of Jet's Freedom Fighters.
Yeah, the big guy.
Yeah, was if that was the big guy? Okay, who was like the small one? Like they had like they had like a headband and like tap like and like these markings on the cheek or whatever.
Like they thought it was a
Yeah,
guy, but it was a
yeah, or
girl.
something like
I
that.
forgot.
Yeah,
Maybe it was Smellerby. I don't
was that
know. Or
Smellerby?
Junebug or something.
I honestly cannot remember their names like that. I feel so bad. But going ahead, like I realized that that was another form of representation. I believe that the character was non-binary.
Good
I
point.
think that that was like what they were trying to get across, and I could be wrong as far as exactly what it was that they were alluding to with the character, but it was something that really like stuck out on like another watch, like being a lot older. And I'm like, oh wow, like this show was pretty progressive even for a mid 2000s cartoon. Like,
yeah, again, way ahead of its time.
Way ahead of its time. So good.
It was really, really good. I'm really curious to see how this live adaptation goes.
Yeah, very curious. I'm honestly like on edge because live adaptations of any like anime inspired work is does not have a good track record.
Even if the original creators are attached.
See, that's the thing. Like that's the thing that's giving me hope. I'm like, okay, the original creators are attached. Like that's all I can really like grab on for any kind of hope. But I just hope that it's not. I hope that there's a reason for it, that there's a justifiable reason for it to be a live action adaptation.
Now, do you think they should redo Aang's story or start something entirely new?
I don't.
What do you kind of hope for?
I honestly would be very hopeful. I don't know if they would actually do this, but if it was sort of a continuation from the last book, I think mainly because I've actually started to go back and read the comics as well, which are like the officially canon that are take place after book 3, and they have some
which I know nothing about. If you could give some details up, I'd love it.
I can't give like I just kind of read up on the plots. Like I'm starting to like I just actually ordered them so I can actually read them in detail. But
oh, nice. Okay.
One of them deals with everything with Zuko's mom and her whereabouts, where she's at, and that like just from reading the plot outline from that, I'm like, okay, that sounds really interesting and really good. And also a story detail with Toph teaching earthbenders to be metal benders now so she can open up her own school. There's something else about oh yeah, Azula like still getting her kind of redemption as well. Like
really?
there's a lot of interesting story details within these comics, and even like things dealing with like the spirit world and how the spirits feel that Aang as the Avatar is siding more with the humans rather than just the spirits, and so there's this weird conflict that goes on between the spirit world and the human world, which just reading that I'm like, wow, that would actually I can see that being influenced, either that they got that influence from Korra or it influenced Korra, because book 2 dealt with the spirits versus the human side in that. So it's there's so much lore and so much stories out there that I feel haven't really been given like a bigger platform, that I think that a Netflix live action adaptation would be cool if they ventured into that territory. But if there's just a retelling of the series, I just hope that they do it like they're able to capture the magic or even improve on some things that they felt were like kind of lacking, if they felt that way. But to me the show is perfect. So
it really was. It really is a perfect show.
It really is. Even with the like quote unquote flaws that it has, it's still a perfect show.
Ooh, I'm kind of curious. What kind of flaws do you think it has?
I think it's not necessarily a flaw. I think it's just held back from its rating. I feel like that might be its biggest like there's things like some of the characters have swords, in there. And it's this is something I've noticed like as a kid, like even with Ninja Turtles or anything. Like they'll have the swords, but they never really actually cut anybody. They're just there to kind of like clash and hit and make it look cool. But then
Gotcha, yeah.
like stuff like that. Or like I said, Jet's death, which was it was like a weird moment because they never explicitly said that he died in the series, but like they gave the impression that he did. But even in book 3, when they're watching the play based off of the story of the show, they even ask, did Jet just die? And they're like, I'm still not really sure about that. Which is it's a great joke. But like I think that it's the rating of the series kind of prevented it from going into more to darker places that it probably was trying to go. But I think also the magic of the rating kind of holding them back and them finding different ways to still get across the same kind of intensity makes the show what it is already. So that's kind of why I say it's a quote unquote flaw, because it's not necessarily a flaw. It's more like a preference kind of thing. But at the same time, it doesn't change like the experience that I already have with the series. So.
Yeah, and I think Netflix kind of they should at least trust the original creators and that they know what the audience wants. And I think that was the downfall of the film, is that the creators weren't actually involved that much, and it was just Nickelodeon and he who should not be named.
Pretty much.
But I do highly recommend anybody and everybody of any age group to watch the show. So I know that everybody was happy with Aang being with Katara, right? I mean, that was just set up from day one, from the very get-go. But I'm curious that it would have been nice maybe having Katara and Zuko, because I mean there were some moments they were hinting at that. I remember
there were some moments in there. I was actually on the team of Katara and Zuko getting together. I was on the team. Like I remember, I just felt that Aang and Katara's relationship were more brother and sister. Like I was like, oh, it's like he's like it's cute, but I didn't think that it was actually going to be anything bigger. But I mean, hey, I'm not a romantic expert, so I can't really say if it was a logical thing. But it was something that was hinted at from like day one that they were going to get together.
Yeah.
So it's no complaints.
Absolutely. There. Yeah, and even when they met with the with that psychic, she was like, "You would have a powerful bender."
Exactly.
It was always given to us. Yeah, but. Anyway, Joshua, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and talking about Avatar: The Last Airbender.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. This was a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun. Yeah, after you read the comics, we should have you back on again to update us on the future or the continuation of their lives.
I definitely will. I will binge read, I will analyze and study, and I'll be back.
Yay, awesome. So if you would like to tell our listeners where they can follow you or see what you're up to.
Well, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter. My username is j.slack, which is JDOTSLACK. And if you would like to also follow my photography page on Instagram, it is JSlackImages, which is JSLACKIMAGES. JSlackImages. And yeah, I'm an actor, writer, photographer, and aspiring director. So
awesome.
Pretty cool to have a following, I guess.
Hell yeah, dude. That's so cool. Well, I know you're in LA. Well, are you in LA right now, or did you go back home during the time?
I went back home during this time, but I'll be back in LA. I'm thinking probably in the summer, hopefully. Like I go back to school in September. So
sweet.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if you ever have any free time, I'm in Burbank, so we should get together.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm
awesome, man.
I'm always driving back up and forth to LA, so whenever I come back up, I'll let you know.
Cool, man. Okay, well, awesome. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks for being on.
Of course, thank you.
All right, talk to you soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Hello, everyone. If you liked this episode, please make sure to rate, review, and subscribe. why not follow me on Instagram as well at Matt Macedo, and go to my website www.mattmacedo.com if you would like to see any of my past projects.